Welcome back to our next episode of Behind the Mile. One of the visions I had when we first launched the podcast was to tell the story about last mile logistics, not just in the States, but around the world. Because operators, just like yourself, are overcoming unique challenges in their home countries to push the last mile first. So today, I'm excited to welcome you on our first international episode where we get to talk to someone who's pioneering a solution that's going to revolutionize the last mile industry in the Bahamas, but if he's right, around the world. Here we go, our next episode of Behind the Mile, the Bahamas edition. I want to thank you for taking this ride on the Last2First journey with us. In 6 months, we've achieved over 200,000 views across all our platforms. We're humbled and thankful for your support. But I do have one small favor to ask. Take 5 seconds, hit the like button or subscribe. Just like your on-time performance metric, this one matters to us the most. It helps us attract better guests and bring you deeper content to help propel you on your Last2First journey. And if your brand aligns with our mission, reach out to us. We'd love to find ways to partner and work together. Now back to Last2First. And a lot of those, I was looking at just flying in to see, kind of the network.
Yeah, right around here it's just like really small ones. So, like when you was flying in, our largest island you may have passed, it's called Andros, which is a pretty big island. You can do that.
Andros Island.
Yeah, that's the largest one, yeah. So Andros is it's pretty populated. Nassau obviously is the most densely populated island. I think we have 21 miles long, 7 miles wide. We have about 300,000 persons that reside on this island alone. And then everything else is basically sparsely populated. But
so you were born and raised here?
I was born in Freeport, Grand Bahama. Yeah, but I was raised there in Nassau, and then a lot of my summers I would either spend on the family islands because I have a lot of family on what we call them outer islands or family islands.
But family islands, or what's the meaning of that?
So because we consider them to be family, it's all the Bahamas. So Nassau is the capital, and the family islands are those other islands that most of your family, like especially the older generation, either grew up in or born at. So like Andros and Abaco and Eleuthera and Exuma. Mm-hmm. My family is from the southern Bahamas, so my family is mainly from Aucklands and Makewana, Crooked Island, Cat Island. So that's like the most furthest southern point. And like I told you already, I came from a family of sailors. So, my great grandfather had sailboats, and my grandfather had like cargo ships. And then, a lot of my cousins right now have cargo ships. When we go to the port, I'll show you, like, a lot of my cousins have owned a lot of the vessels out there.
And your great grandfather's Captain Nevis?
That's my grandfather. Yeah. His father was a sailboat captain as well. He had his own sailboat cargo ships too, and they used to call him Big Country. Big Country Ferguson.
Big Country.
He was a big man. Tall, strong, big man.
Yeah. And a MailBoat, is it just? But it sounds like it's a sailboat, but it's transport mail. Or does it look different?
It's a supply vessel that's been converted into a ro-ro ship. So I'll show you one because we own one too.
Okay.
When I take you there, you'll be able to see it.
How many people are in the organizations, kind of employee-wise? Not drivers, are they independent contractor drivers? Like, what's the model here? Is it more
fast?
Yeah.
Well,
or even the sailboats. So
oh no, well, it depends. So with the shipping companies, like we have different companies, yeah. So you'd have trucking companies, you'd have this and that. My company, everything is kept in house. So we keep every part of our company internal. But you have like trucking companies here, brokerage companies, shipping companies. Most of the what we call MailBoats or shipping companies that operate domestic trade, most of them they just handle shipping. They don't really bother with the trucking part of it, or one or two of them do. But for the most part, they sort of retain port operations, because with our domestic shipping, you have to do your own stevedoring. So there isn't a stevedoring company for domestic trade. So it's basically like the companies that load vessels and offload vessels. Yeah, so that's stevedoring. They do port operations and stuff like that.
Got it. So we see like the cranes and stuff where you see like the moving the big containers.
Yeah, that's called stevedores.
Got it. I should know that. I'm from New Orleans.
Yeah, I got a big port in New Orleans. Believe it or not, a lot of the ships that we operate here as MailBoats were bought in New Orleans. They were actually old supply chain vessels for the oil rigs off of New Orleans. You know, yeah. So apparently, I don't know, but apparently New Orleans has a lot of offshore oil drilling.
Down south.
Yeah, down south, I guess, and the supply vessels that are used to carry the supplies from, the mainland over to those oil rigs. When they decommission them, they buy them and they send them here to operate as what we call MailBoats.
Got it. So when did you found CLX?
So we founded CLX, and me and my wife together. Well, I put it like this: I founded it for my wife. We founded it in 2021. So me and my wife were actually survivors of the worst hurricane that ever hit our region, which was called Hurricane Dorian. And I was in Freeport. I was working at Secor as a port director. And my wife was actually living in Abaco, which was the island that was really impacted the most by the hurricane. And my son at the time, he was just been born. He was basically a newborn. Wasn't even 1 year old yet, and we basically lost everything in the storm. And at the same time, my father was dying. He was on the way out, and I had to make a serious decision. I had to. It was my wife now, because lost everything in the storm. She had to come back to Nassau from Abaco, and I was in Freeport still. I took a pretty good sized loss as well too, and I just had to make a decision. It was really busy time, so I either had to leave my job and come and take care of my dad, who me and him spent a lot of time growing up together, or stay in Freeport, and I didn't want to take that chance, so I turned in my letter of resignation and I came to Nassau with just an idea and a dream, because I wasn't in any financial position at that point either. We were basically rock bottom, and I took $200 because that's what it costs to open up a business. Yeah, right. And I took $200. It was my wife's birthday. I didn't have anything to buy her for her birthday. I had $200, and I got our business license, and I told her, I said, I can make this work.
Wow.
And from then till now, we've turned that $200 into millions of revenue every year, just through pure hard work and determination, and just having an amazing staff, and just being able to be supported by local. And because at first, when we started out, I faced a lot of pushback. We didn't really have the client base and stuff, and a friend of mine gave me a really good opportunity to work with a new company that had just come down to the Bahamas. Because CLX actually stands for corporate logistics. So basically, one of the reasons I started was because so freight forwarding and courier services are dime a dozen around here. There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anyone who really focused on the business side of it, that where businesses had an opportunity to have a company that would have understood their needs, number one, that been able to organize their shipments and sort of operate like a logistics department in your company, but an external firm. So there was basically my sort of vision behind it as we created it. But we opened it up to retail, so that we deal with a lot of retail clients as well. So
e-commerce,
e-commerce and retail clients, basically like one-off persons, who just want to ship and want an efficient way to ship. So we've wrapped that up into our sort of business model as well. But it started off with us dealing with companies, and a friend of mine gave me an amazing opportunity to do logistics for a company that just it ended up growing and expanding, and it was a really, really big company until it folded and they went bankrupt.
That's the first client, really.
That was a good point. To test out the market. I would say that was my first big client. You know, I had other clients like friends in the construction industry. You know, they gave me opportunities to work with them, and we found out that second homeowners, because I have a friend of mine that just builds luxury homes.
Okay.
And we found out that second homeowners order a lot of stuff because, you know, they build in their house, you know, the furnitures and all the stuff that they want for these homes where from the places that they used to, they can't get the same goods here.
So you got to ship it in.
So they got to ship it in, you know. So we just took advantage of creating like streamlined systems where they could transparently see all of their stuff that they ordered, and you know we could properly track them, consolidate them, and then we also created a door-to-door delivery method. So like I said again, I'm not sure because I don't really know too much about our competition.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to us, I know most persons used to have place like you would order something offline and then somebody would come and pick it up. But with us, we offer a door-to-door service.
All the way through.
Yeah, all the way
Full
through.
supply chain.
Yeah, full visible
end-to-end.
supply chain end-to-end, you know. So we sort of did that as well too. It gave us a pretty big advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are a couple of companies that are doing it now. Not sure how their operation works or if it's as transparent as ours, but we definitely have created our own system. So everything inside our company now is built in-house, from the softwares that we use to you know, the processes, like everything is done in-house. The only thing third party we use is like different stuff for organizational stuff. You know what I mean? Like we use Monday as a task manager.
So
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I was going to ask you because I mean you're offering customized logistics.
Yeah.
But it's streamlined to fit the needs of these international clients coming in. I guess the question is when you is every import the same? So from country A to country B to country C, is it pretty much the same process, or is there some unique systems or things you got to do inside of those?
Well, the thing about it is that because we've streamlined it and done it so much that we've created our own internal process that streamlines it. As far as anything changing, nothing really changes because the logistics industry from a global standpoint is pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that ever changes if, for instance, we facing some sort of disruption because of a geopolitical issue, bad congestions, stuff like that. Most part, the documentation never changes.
Mm-hmm.
We have built a pretty good network, working along with trusted industry partners across the world, from everywhere from Europe to Asia, Central, South America, like all over the world. And believe it or not, we didn't even join like these logistics societies that charge you a bunch of money every year to be a part of them, to build these relationships. The way that we built these relationships was by just being honest and transparent when companies ship to the Bahamas, because there's not many full-scale logistics companies. There's one or two companies that offer like shipping services, and they handle like break bulk logistics, and they deal in particular industries, oil and gas, so on and so forth. But there's not really anyone that deals with everything in general underneath one house. So we a lot of these companies, when they ship into the Bahamas, they reach out to a logistics firm in their home country. And when that firm vets us and they find us, then we just open up a business relationship with them. So if this company is operating in the UK and they send me 2 or 3 shipments, everything runs smooth, they happy doing business with us. When I have shipments to go to the UK, naturally they're the person that I choose.
100%.
And so we just do a hand come relationships. They send me business and I send them business. And we just built up a network on trust and integrity, and then we try just not to do business with we don't do business with any sort of shady characters. Like we do our research and we make sure that you're an established company. You know what I mean? Like everyone, we have a checklist of the boxes that we check off of companies that we do business with, depending on the country and the rules and the regulations of that country. And then we just go from there.
What's interesting about that is one of the first things, so we'll get into this in an interview, but one first thing my dad taught me when, say, really in any business, we said the number one quality you're looking for in an employee or partner is trust.
Trust. 100%.
And it's interesting. He built his network doing that kind of locally, I kind of, and he did his nationally too. I kind of expanded and did it nationally with the industry.
Right.
You took the vision from your great grandfather, and now you're doing international.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That vision is kind of manifested into this reality.
Yeah.
But the founding principle is trust.
Trust. Yeah. Trust and integrity. You know, like the thing about it is, somebody told me, many years ago, is that when it comes to trust, you trust people what you know that they're capable of doing. So I can't trust you to drive a truck for me if you're not a truck driver. You know what I mean? I can't. I won't ever ask my truck driver to do my accounting. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a truck driver, like I trust you because I know you're a good truck driver. You know what I mean? I trust you with my accounting work because you're a good accounting work. So trust is very relative to, the environment that you place people in. You know what I mean? Like some people, like they thieves, right? But you could trust them around your kids.
Yeah.
And some people you can't trust around your kids, but they don't steal. And I said you can't trust them around your kids. You know what I'm saying? It's about the environment that you place people in, and just trusting them to be who you know them to be.
And you can only get that through experience.
And you only can get it through experience, right? You got to know your people, and that's through trial and error, and then you can't really build based on what somebody else says, because almost all of my staff, and I told them this because it's funny because they could tell you I should have let them say it to you in the office. So I come this as a joke. I tell them I was Michael Jordan Logistics, right? So, and the reason I say that to them, they say, very true. Let's do it. Oh yeah, we're not only have to recreate and sell it. I make an original. I came in with the heart and the passion. So, yeah, right. So the reason why I tell them that is because every single person you see in that office, every person who in my company, including my own wife, my wife is a dentist. You see what I'm saying? So she is in school. She was in school for dentistry. She recently became a dentist.
Wow.
But she's a dentist, and she also runs a food catering company, right? But she knew nothing about logistics, even though she was, early and she first got to high school, she became a customs officer. But that was the only thing she knew is about like terminology and stuff. She didn't understand logistics. But every single person in this entire company, I could look at them and I smile sometimes because I listen to them speak to persons on the phone, and I see the way that they interact with persons so confidently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it lets me know that like either they've learned this from me, or they've taken it an extra mile and they're trying to be smarter and better than me. You know what I mean? And I'm very appreciative of that because I know that all of them are like young people. I have, for the most part, every single one of them, I have 20 plus years on, in age.
Right.
I was actually in my career when they were born.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy to me, like, watch and see young persons, like, become now interested in an industry that I gained interest in because, in the Bahamas, a lot of persons, a lot of the young persons came from this culture, and it was very destructive to our society from the 80s, and the whole sort of drug culture, and it's a worldwide, I would call it a plague,
Right.
where persons get fascinated with fast money and the lifestyle and this and that and the next thing, but they lose sight of where the real money is being made. You know what I mean? And like I had one of my old mentors one time take me out to the airport and show me like fleets of private jets one time. And he was like, every single one of them you see is somebody who's either in the maritime industry or in trade, And he say, none of those jets out there is a lawyer or a doctor. It's not one. Okay. And this actually used to be the old, Bacardi rum?
Yes.
This used to be their old plant where they used to produce Bacardi for many, many years in the Bahamas. So this is where we have our warehouse. It was developed by a friend of mine who's a pretty big businessman. Yeah.
And so it used to be Bacardi. They don't produce it now.
No, so they converted it all to warehouses. So all of this used to be the Bacardi plant that our company Bacardi used to operate from. and then they've now converted it into warehouse facilities, and where our warehouse is located. The truck's already on the road.
How long have you been in this location?
This location recently opened up last year, so I think I've been here from like last October or something like that. Sorry.
Check that.
Good work.
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Yeah, so
Jason.
that's Anthony. So he basically runs the warehouse. This Ramir, he is one of the truck drivers. So he runs like all the trucking stuff.
This is a lot of the freight that comes in both Octobolt and CLX.
Yeah, well, Octobolt, we actually keep our inventory in another warehouse right around there.
Okay.
We have these windows came in for a client from China.
Okay.
So we have the invoices here. I mean the windows here. Sorry.
So they come in on a container.
Containers.
You break them
we
down.
break the containers down right there.
Break them down.
Yeah.
And then you ship these where? Like to
So we also do 3PL logistics as well.
Okay.
So basically what we do for this particular guy is that he gets orders online and then we deliver them for him. So
Okay.
we receive his orders and we deliver them out, you know.
And you deliver them not just to Nassau.
Any family island, anywhere he wants us to deliver them, yeah.
So you'll show us how, so I'm assuming you're moving on the MailBoat?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and show you how we do all of that.
Okay.
So he is actually one of our logistics clients. We would do a lot of trucking for him and shipping from different ports, but he also owns ships. So we've sort of built a really good relationship with them, where we
can leverage his assets.
Yeah, we leverage his assets. So
he's based here?
Yeah, based right in Nassau. And the thing about it is that our industry was really dominated by old men. Like all of us who work in tandem are young persons.
Yeah.
We all young persons that just have sort of taken on the baton to take this industry to another level. So that's how come you see, well, from our standpoint, the companies that I sort of do business with, like you'll notice a lot of them have integrated a lot of technology into their business, and the operations just run a lot different from the way a lot of the old school operations used to run. Because all of us are pretty relatively young. Late 30s, early 40s.
How much of your experience from your previous stops? You mentioned you had C Corp before. I know you worked at a couple other companies in the transportation space. How much did that those early learnings you experienced there?
So I took little pieces out of all of those experiences to sort of create what I know now, right? So, like for instance, with Seco, I was a shipping agent. I used to run the port operations for them. And in Freeport, Grand Bahama. So I learned a lot about clearing vessels, loading vessels, just the documentation side of having to do logistics in the Bahamas, move stuff around. So I learned a lot about it from that.
Yeah.
Prior to them, I was with another shipping company, but they only used to do air freight. So I learned a little bit about the air freight side of the business from dealing with them. Prior to that, I was marketing. I was actually doing marketing for a family member of mine. He sent me to Chile to live in Chile for a year.
Wow.
So I learned a lot about marketing in my research working with him.
What type of industry?
He was in the construction industry. He was an architect.
Okay.
So I learned a lot about building supplies and the movement of goods for the construction industry, working with there. And then prior to that, I was with a shipbuilding company. So I learned a lot about the intricacies of vessels and ships and operating. I was the office manager, so I learned a lot about running projects and organizational skills, and I learned all of that from them. And then there was a before that, when I first got out of university, I was working with my cousins. I'll show you their operation when we go down to the port. But I was the equipment control manager, and when I started that position, I didn't know anything about anything equipment. I just do stuff, and I just learned a lot about organization with that, and managing assets and managing equipment, and just it was a good experience, and then I did work for a short time running up the port operations for another shipping company, so I learned about port operations from them. And it's just that I had, these sort of stints with companies, a few years with each one of them. And that sort of left me now in this position of understanding so many dynamic parts of the industry itself. And I read a lot about it. I read and I study, and I don't follow normal news,
What do you? Okay, well, so before I get to that, 'cause I want to ask you one more question about that, because you're now able to take all these different experiences and leverage into like a vertical integration.
Right.
Like everything you just mentioned is a part of the all the service offerings of solutions that you now offer to your clients, right? And then the combination with your youth and that kind of innovative approach with technology.
Yeah.
It's like a nice little secret sauce to give you a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
In the marketplace. Right. And it's also attractive, right? So you're talking good talent, right? So you can bring younger folk into this industry who, may not want to go into like the, some of the industries, dinosaur dog,
right?
But there's a new way of doing it,
right? And it's especially when you show them how much you integrate technology into your business, because one of the things about young people is that the world that they grew up in is different from mine. Like the internet came around when I was like a late teenager. You know what I mean? MSN, Windows was the thing when I was in university, and I could remember when Facebook came out. You had to go to university. If you didn't have .edu, you couldn't be a part of Facebook. The age that they grew up in is completely different, and technology has been something that they have been holding in their hands from their babies, playing with tablets and touchscreens. So it's as a business, and especially a growing business, if you want young persons to take your business to another level, you have to provide them with the tools that they are most comfortable using, which is technology. Like I just had this with my staff the other day, where there's some persons in my staff who are not good at writing, right?
Okay.
So and it's crazy that they just aren't good at writing. They can fix anything. I've seen them. They good mechanics. But me trying to realize their handwriting and the legibility of it is almost impossible, right? And I told them that I'm doing them a disservice by asking them to write something when they can't write, and then getting frustrated when it's not written properly. It's not your fault. It's my fault as a leader for not identifying that maybe I should just let you type, And I realized that what they're good at is WhatsApp. So what I did was that if you look at my phone, like I have maybe 100 WhatsApp groups for my company, and I have WhatsApp groups for everything. So every package that comes into my warehouse, they have to take a photo of it, the label, and type the name underneath it all, put it in a WhatsApp group. Everything that goes out, they type it and put it in a WhatsApp group. And then my data entry persons at the main office then take that information and transfer it into our internal system. So what I did was that I reduced dependency on them to write anything, because it was frustrating them and it was frustrating. And then I just created a system based on the technology that they use the most. They all use WhatsApp all day. You see what I'm saying? So
genius.
So that's what I did to figure out how to get them to be more efficient. And we just use WhatsApp groups, because they are always on their phone on WhatsApp anyway. So why not integrate my work into what they currently are focused on all day?
And I bet productivity, proficiency is
200% productivity skyrocketed after I did that. And I could keep my eye on everything when it enters the warehouse, and I have accountability behind it. You see, so now I have the ability to basically show exactly what it is that we, like I could see any and every part of my company transparently. Anything that moves, anything that goes anywhere, anything that arrives, it all it all is in one transparent place, which is WhatsApp, which is just a technology that they used to use,
Yeah, but sometimes it's like the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid, exactly.
And I think a leader's job, the primary job of any leader, is to remove the roadblocks.
Yeah.
For folks, and many times that's just meeting them where they are.
Exactly.
Right. So that's the part that,
So this is the freight terminal.
All right, let's check it out. All right. This
is where the freight comes in and is broken down into smaller, basically like smaller shipments. So when containers come into the main port, they send them down here and then they break it down. I would drive you in, but because we have cameras, I know that they can give me an issue about it. So I got to turn around. Right? I just wanted to show it to you because it's in that area.
Okay.
So one of the guys that I partner with some other entities, his name is Derek Sands, and we started out together. That he started out a little before me, but he sort of gave us a good opportunity. We've been working with him from the beginning, and our companies have grown exponentially. So the name of his company is right there, ShipX, right? Okay. And he's the only person other than a big company like MSC and Tropical Shipment that has operations out there. And he's a young black man, and that's almost unheard of. Somebody under 40 on a part of this facility, or like on a space in that facility, I should say. Yeah. It's just never been done.
How did he do it? How did he get his start?
He used to be in banking, and he just worked his way up. The same minimum, similar stories,
Yeah.
He just worked his way up from the beginning, humble beginnings, and just never gave up and just remained focused and, just keep pushing at it and knocking at the door of an industry that, didn't necessarily want new players in the game, and now he's one of the biggest.
You mentioned in kind of our offline notes, we were sharing that you faced some challenges in terms of being told that it can't be done.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I mean, that's natural for any person getting started in an industry dominated by players who've held on to the crown for so long. It's expected, and it's something that's global. Like rarely you'll find somebody passing the baton to anybody new in their industry, especially when somebody comes with a lot of big and bold ideas. But it wasn't something that discouraged me. It was something that I had to embrace. It was something that I had to, accept that, I probably will fail, but will I keep failing? More than likely not, but I'm going to fall down a couple of times, but you need to learn as you go. The good thing about it is that I connected myself through, like leveraged a lot of the friendships that I had, whether they were social, whether they were persons I went to school with, whether they were persons who I knew from the industry or persons that, I knew from past employments and stuff. Yeah. And I just sort of leveraged those relationships to be beneficial for our company during its growth. I didn't go knocking on anyone's door begging them for business. 9 out of 10 times I just went for advice. And a lot of entities who persons that demonized around here and who had told me like to stay away from, they were the ones who were the most helpful, like persons always would demonize the government and the government agencies that regulate the industry, from customs to this one. And, and the thing is that initially I used to be afraid to go to them for questions and answers, but over time I built up a really good relationship with them. And the amount of knowledge that I've just learned from dealing with these government entities like Bahamas Customs, who I have to like sort of give like real strong comment, I have to commend their efforts from the comptroller go all the way down, is that, they're very receptive. They're strict. We have a really strict customs enforcement here, whether it's contrary to popular belief, but I see it from the inside out. I see it, but they have always stepped up to give me the information that I needed, or train my staff in something that we didn't know or we didn't understand, or like just helping us to process the new systems or whatever it was. I always had the opportunity to just pick up the phone and give them a ring and be like, hey, I don't understand this. What do I do here? And I would always be somebody who would have been willing to just sort of go above and beyond the call to sort of assist us,
Yeah.
and um that was really one of those things that allowed me to scale up relatively fast, is just by becoming really knowledgeable in the industry, and some of the hiccups again was persons telling you that you can't do it, or saying, hey, the market is saturated and there's too many persons in the business. And because like I told you already, courier companies are freight forwarders are a dime a dozen around here.
Yeah.
But when I look at what they do and what we do, I realize that there's only one of us. Like there may be freight forwarders and courier companies, but like how many of them have a global footprint?
Yeah.
How many of them do end-to-end logistics? How many of them even know what third-party logistics is? And so we've sort of been able to dominate our field by just going after, a lot of specialized logistics, a lot of the e-commerce, a lot of, a lot of the sort of stuff that persons sort of looked at as being not as profitable.
Yeah. Tell me about, I want to get into technology because I know you are working on something new. I think you're recently launched or launching soon, called domesticfreight.com.
Yeah, domesticfreight.com.
Put a smile on your face, right? Yeah. Seem excited
because it's similar to Octobot. So, my dad was really big into art, and I was growing up, right? So like I grew up like with a lot of art, and I have a lot of friends who was artists, and just watching persons create something always sort of, it was something that I really loved. Like I love to watch an artist in action. I love to watch a music artist in action as well. Like just watching somebody create something does something for me, right?
Yeah.
But I can't draw and I can't sing. You know what I mean? But what I know that I'm really good at is like I'm really good at like coming up with ideas, and even better at executing the ideas. Like I'm not the type of person that creates something and then I sit down on it and like I think I maybe own about 100 domains. Because every time I think of an idea, I just shoot and go and buy the domain. Just to, and then I go back to those domains and I'm like, okay, which one of these I'm going to focus on now, And one of the challenges that and most of my ideas are birthed out of solutions to problems that I've seen, and I like to solve problems for persons that experience the problems that I have. So when I create something, I don't necessarily solve a problem for you. I solve a problem for me, and it just happens to be a problem that I solve for us. You know what I'm saying? But I really look at it from like, how is this problem affecting me personally, and how do I fix it? And so with domesticfreight.com, I've realized from CLX and my company, I was like, it is awful trying to get stuff in and around my island, like just to deliver packages, and I'm like looking at it as like there's e-commerce providers around here, like they don't have this ability to, we live on a 21-mile long island, right? And I can't order something from a local website without having to go to their store and pick it up, or like why don't we have Amazon built for us? Why is that? Why? Because Amazon essentially is just a logistics company.
That's all they are.
You know what I mean? And like, why is it so hard for me or for a business person to expand their business and like not have to pay for a big shop front? And so I just was like looking at it as this is really a logistics problem that we face in here. And I was like, well, bigger problem is that how do I get items to the family islands? Because the islands aren't able to grow as fast as possible. They can't scale up because the reality is they have to wait on a mailboat that only goes to their island once a week. The flights going to the islands are really expensive in terms of the cargo. It's like around $3 a pound or $3.50 a pound. And that's ridiculous. It costs more for me to send freight from from an island in the Bahamas than from a country to the Bahamas, outside of the Bahamas. And
it costs more to get something from island to island than out the country.
Correct. So yeah, right. And to me, that's an imbalance of trade, number one. But what it is that it stagnates the growth of those islands. Because how do you expect those islands to grow if you can't provide them with a logistics solution to get everyday items to their doorstep on a daily basis?
Yeah.
So I started to think about it, and I was like, well, there's persons who travel by boat, by private aircraft, and there's persons who drive around the island all day with nothing to do. Why, if somebody go into an island on a speedboat today, they go in there on a trip, because a lot of persons just go and travel, why can't they deliver a package for me while they're on the way? And then some of them do, but it's based on they carry it for a friend or a family member, So I just started to knock away the chip away, I should say, at the problem itself. Okay, what would be the issue here? It'd be a security issue, right? So how do I solve the security side of it? Okay, I turn one of my warehouses into a processing facility.
Yeah.
So what I do is I go and I ensure that the package isn't contraband or it's anything. I clear that out first, and then now I facilitate getting this package to you. Now, how do I do that without draining my resources? So I thought about it, and I was like, maybe it's best for me to not worry about the margins in this business and just think about how do I create a solution and look at making margins off of volume. So I said, well, the easiest way to do that would be for persons to make money in their off time or their downtime. So basically what I looked at is I looked at the way that most of these models work, whether it be like Uber or the other ones that are successful in other countries, food delivery companies, so on and so forth.
Shared service model.
Right. And I just looked at their service model and I said, I could probably build this more efficient, but just for cargo, and because they have a lot of stuff on it that I don't need, So what I did was that I just got with my developers, because we have in-house developers, and I just started to explain to them my problem, and I explained to them what I want the solution to look like. And it's just starting to birth sort of something that solves a logistics problem that exists globally, right? Which is, how do I get packages hard to get to places, which is something that, we especially in the Caribbean, we face it all the time, because of the logistics behind getting packages and goods to different, especially remote regions and countries is almost impossible. But you got to remember, these remote regions always have somebody traveling to them. They aren't the circulation of them aren't cut off from the world. It's just they're cut off from logistics providers. You see? So it isn't like persons aren't going back home or persons aren't visiting, and this is the case. It's just that logistics companies find a challenge in getting there. So what I did was that we just created a logistics node that connects persons who go in from one place to another with persons who have stuff they want to send, persons and businesses. And we've been getting a really good response, not even just from the Bahamas. So just me putting it out there, within the industry. I've had persons reach out to me from all kind of different countries in and around the Caribbean, now stating that they're interested in us implementing the service and the software. So right now we're just waiting on, we fixing a lot of bugs and fixes, and just trying to make sure that when we roll it out, it rolls out properly. And it's something that I really sort of excited about, because I know that I created this from scratch. I know that it's a solution to a problem, and I feel as though it's going to be a good one.
So this is just I get clarity. This is a network of kind of independent, whether it be on a jet ski, on a boat, on, I guess,
the same way a yacht. You had a yacht, anything, a private plane,
supply ship.
Anything. A business cargo ship could register, a trucking company could register. We've built it as to where, so a company could actually use it as their management tool for their fleet too. So for instance, if I have an e-commerce company and I have my own delivery drivers, and I could add my drivers to the fleet, and if my drivers are overwhelmed, I have access to an entire network of additional drivers who could assist me with delivering my packages. You know,
to complement your capacity.
right?
through this network.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the shippers, you're thinking more B2B, or it could be C2C. It could be
All of it.
All of it.
All of it. You know, all of it. Basically, like you said, you know, we just trying to create a way to provide persons with the stuff that they need. So, for instance, while we may build some aspects of the actual software to facilitate B2B business, you know, the reality is that when I created it, I created it with me being a consumer in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I put a lot of thought into how do I solve like a problem of me getting goods direct to my door, you know, on a day-to-day basis, you know. And if I order something from, you know, Mrs. Sue, who hand makes T-shirts in her house,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how do I avoid having to go to her house, you know? So
Now, another thing, do you guys do any type of critical supply deliveries, thinking healthcare related items, could be emergency response related items?
for us,
Plus, yeah.
I mean, with my company CLX,
Mhm.
we've supplied some companies with medical supplies. You know, I mean, our regular customers, some of them are doctors and, you know, in the medical field. So we bring them a lot of supplies. You know, some shipments we've seen come in as anything from oxygen to all different kind of requests we've gotten. You know,
Yeah.
But we, again, you know, the country is very small, so one way or the other, like these supplies have to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
You know, so whether it's us or whether it's direct on the airline or whether or not somebody has to charter a plane to get it to a hospital or clinic, you know, it gets done. You know, we get some of them, but you know, it's spread out based on the demand for it and based on the emergency. You know, the urgency, I should say.
And you mentioned that the MailBoats today, they primarily go once a week to the Family Island.
Well, you may have one or two that go twice a week, but that's actually rare. For the most part, they only go once. Yeah.
Is that mostly because it's not enough volume to like so I remember in my experience we started doing like white glove 2-man deliveries of furniture items, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were our delivery territory was maybe like a couple 100-mile radius, and so the plan was to kind of to hit the extended area with a lot of freight by bulk, right? So we could kind of piecemeal our way out there, but we. You know, and you had maybe, I don't know, 3 days from the time the freight hit the dock. You have to get to the constantly need the customer.
Right.
And we could never get enough volume to make it make sense. So we started going out there with, 2 shipments or 3 shipments, but we wanted 10, 15.
Right.
And the math wasn't math.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so that's one of the challenges right now. So the thing is, it's probably not a lot of volume that takes you, that network would be consistent enough to make it.
Well, that's the thing about it is, yeah, like, I think that the volume does exist, right? But
access it.
Yeah, but because, you know, the trip takes a certain amount of time. You know, it takes you a certain amount of time to get there. The vessels are only so big, and it's tricky because, sorry, they bought the vessels at one size, right? But you can't buy them too big because you have to be able to get into the port that you're going into. You know, like you gotta have sort of a low draft vessel. You know, you gotta have a vessel that could get into the places that you need to go into. You know, so that's one of the challenges. And then you can't. So it means that you can't buy too big of a vessel, and then you don't want to buy too small of a vessel either. You know, so it's a lot of planning around exactly what size vessel you need and determine the routes and the shipping routes, and you know.
Now what about we'll come up here, I'm gonna flip the camera because I see some of these cruise ships up here.
Yeah.
We used to do some business back in New Orleans. I was a Port City, where the cruise ships would often, when they docked, they needed all type of supplies, replenishment. They needed, maybe it could be medical, could be any type of item they needed. So we did a fair amount of deliveries to these ships. Do you work with any of the cruise lines and ships today?
Through third parties.
Okay.
So they mostly have like companies that they have been doing business with for years. But a lot of those companies come to us and we have to they sub out the work to us, whether it's, small trucking, deliveries to the cruise ship, stuff like that. So normally we would get those sort of business, so sort of those spin off of the business from us. But most of the companies that the cruise liners deal with are persons who they've been doing business with for a long time. They've been sort of working with these companies for many years.
Mm-hmm.
They just sort of maintain the relationship. So, but we've done a couple of, I wouldn't say a couple, more than a couple, but we do a lot of work for them from a third party
delivery standpoint.
Yeah, third party delivery standpoint.
In terms of your assets, your physical assets that you leverage today, so like how many drivers, how many vehicles, units, how many MailBoats, like what's the rough the capacity of the fleet?
So we have roughly 4 trucks, 4 delivery vans. We have a vessel that we just acquired just now. That's, basically in a nutshell, that's what we use for operations here in Nassau. We could scale up. Like right now, we're probably going to get into purchasing some trailer heads and stuff like that. But one of the things that I didn't want to do was overscale myself, where I would then have assets that would just sit down and not get use. Like right now, I think that the assets that we have is a good fit for organization. I wanted to sort of let you see it. Yeah. So this is the cruise. They recently redid this. So when they redid this cruise port, right, the whole thing, all of this is new. All of this is new. Yeah, all of this is new. So they just recently rebuilt this, and they actually about to do some more work, expand it again. So to me, it's one of the nicest cruise ports in the Caribbean, and they put an amphitheater here.
Mm-hmm.
We see more visitors here than anywhere else in the Caribbean.
So obviously the big industry here is still tourism.
Yeah, tourism is our main industry.
Yep.
Tourism is our main industry.
It's very much similar to New Orleans. New Orleans,
big
built on tourism.
Yeah,
that's our claim to fame.
Mm-hmm.
If you have young kids, how old are your kids?
Yeah, I got my oldest is 17. He's 17 on the 31st, 31st of August, just recently graduated high school. And my youngest, my baby girl, was just born, and she is 6 months yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I also got a 7-year-old. He's I got an amazing bunch of kids.
Yeah,
they all bring something unique, and their personalities are all different, But it's I've had them. I had a lot of them working with me over the past few weeks or whatever.
They could come in summertime.
Yeah, they would come in for the summer and work with me for a couple of days, and it was just pretty cool to like take them on the vessels and care them, send them with the delivery drivers, and just have them out and about with us.
Yeah, I saw you. There's a LinkedIn post. This actually caught my attention when I was
with my son.
With your son, and I was researching, looking for companies to come talk to when I came down here, and I saw that post and I read it, and I immediately told my assistant, I was like, "This is the guy we got to talk to."
Yeah,
and because it resonated with me. I've got young kids, but it's your story, the kind of lineage of it too. And that post you talked about how, I guess, your grandfather.
Was
on the same type of boats.
Yeah. So these are supply ships right here too. Like this right here is a cargo vessel called the Betty K.
Okay.
I see it too good, but that's one of them right there. We had support right now, so that's the domestic freight port, I should call it. Okay. So you'll be able to see it. This is all like the downtown area.
So all these shops, all these retailers here, these are potential customers?
Yeah, they're all potential customers. The thing is that so this particular part of the island, like a lot of these businesses have been here for 40 years, 50 years, and they have the government is now actively working to basically redo this entire part of the island. They're redoing downtown, so it's a big refurbishment process going on, obviously, for the tourist side of it, but also just in general to, beautify this downtown area. So a lot of these companies, they have clients who they've been working with for, many years, but we have also been getting one or two of them. But some of these companies, especially the older ones, they've built their businesses on sort of the systems that used to work. And they're comfortable with them, and I can't knock them for it. Like, why reinvent the wheel, If I was to go and explain to them a lot of my systems, the technology that we use, it probably would make their organizations less efficient because they just don't know how to use technology, or they don't use technology. So, they manually do everything, and they have a system that's been working for them for 40 years. So why change it,
Yeah.
I find that a lot of our business comes on referral, because one of the things we don't do is that we don't really we never advertise prices or sales or bargains or anything even remotely close to that. What we do as a marketing strategy is that we just teach people how knowledgeable we are. So if you ever go on our Facebook or LinkedIn and all of these stuff, you would always see where we just pump out information. We teach persons about different customs processes. We've become now a resource for other shipping companies. Like other shipping companies come on our pages to learn and find out information about the industry, or if they don't understand something, how to get it or whatever, how to get that information, and they come to us as a resource. By us teaching persons that we're so knowledgeable in us, they then understand that, like, okay, maybe these guys are the ones that we need handling our shipments. Because they obviously know what they're doing. And that has sort of been our strategy towards getting customers. And then most times once we get a customer, they normally stay with us for a very long time, especially the ones who are more concerned with running an efficient operation. I've realized that, we've had some big clients that found us to be more expensive than others, and, they dropped us as they dropped us as being their provider, and they found a cheaper option. But I've also seen some of the nightmares that they've come back to me and tell me, like, after going with that cheaper option and seeing, stuff happening, them losing their goods, or someone messing up some paperwork, or something causing them, like, extremely large amounts of money by not paying attention. And, when I still don't turn them down, I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
But it's always a learning experience for me as well, too, and how to deal with certain people and certain clients and certain customers, and that's what I try to do, is try to explain to them, like, not about negativity, not about the negative side of it, but just that, hey, we charge a lot of money to do what we do, but we ensure that, you don't have issues. We are responsible. We make sure that what is said is going to be done is done. It's done efficiently and effectively.
I think that's a great point, because it's something I think I find companies in the States struggle with too, is the value, like understand the value. So pricing is a component of your value, but it's not the value which you provide.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, maybe it's because of competition, the market, economy, etc. Companies just kind of afraid to hold the line on their value.
Right.
And I've had the same experience. I've lost clients, and they've come back, and they've had to learn the hard way what the value is.
Right.
When you're starting out, your company's 3 years old.
Right.
So you have a lot of experience in the industry of the ecosystem of logistics, but CLX and Octobulk, they're fairly newer entities.
Yeah.
How have you been able to kind of have that confidence to hold the ground on value, this early on?
Well, just like what I say, by just being so knowledgeable. That's why I was mentioning to you earlier that I don't follow regular news. Like, you know, I'm not like the person that just jumps up and, watch the shade room, and like I don't follow that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm deep into like understanding the industry that I'm a part of. So I would be on the Bloomberg news, and I trying to find out what's going on in the trade world, geopolitical issues that actually affect trade. These are the kind of stuff that I focus on. So, a lot of times when I speak to clients, and they ask me about what is the transit time right now from they have a shipment in China, and what's the transit time, and I immediately could let them know that, hey, there's port congestion issues going on, there's this, that, and the next thing, other geopolitical issues that may be affecting it because the trade routes go through the Strait of Hormuz. Or you understand, when I'm able to like let them know certain things just off the top of my head, it gives a lot of clients to me the confidence to know that, hey, this guy, especially this young guy, actually knows what he's talking about. Yeah, he knows his stuff, And I think that at the end of the day, a lot of the clients that come to us come based on understanding that the person who is behind this company is actually somebody that I can pick up my phone and call. And that's one of the relationships that I've built with all of my larger clients, that, hey, I'm somebody that you could pick up the phone and call. If you go in, you feel confused about something, or you want some assistance, I'm not going to charge you money for it. Just pick up your phone and call me. I'm not out of reach, and I'm not out of touch.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that personal touch goes a long
So
way.
this is how they load the MailBoats. These are what you call MailBoats. So these are ships that go into different family islands, right? So this is how goods are delivered to those family islands. They're delivered here to the dock. They're just dropped off here. They handwrite them up. The guys, load them onto this vessel in the cargo hold and all on the deck, and then they deliver them. But
so the company, the boxer company, this is a private company that's handed to this.
Yeah, so this is probably from the supplier. If it's not from the seat, so this is Sea Horizon Distributors. That's one of the suppliers. You see, so that's one of the distributors of those goods. And then see, so when the cargo comes here, you get it written up, and when they write it up on paper, like no technology involved, and if they've been doing it the same way for 50 years plus. This is one of my family's companies to the MailBoat. All these is my cousins.
So these are individuals that had to have things that need to get moved, and
this is how you get things to go to family islands. This is a mess. Yeah, like look at this. Like first of all, we technically should have a domestic freight terminal. Where all of the cargo comes in and goes out, as opposed to you just putting it here randomly on the dock, and then they sorting it out to go where and go here.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, it's not very secure.
No.
Yeah.
And then they got equipment moving up and down, so it's obviously, again, not very safe.
Yeah, not safe
either.
Now, in your case, obviously things clear through your network. So that's one of the big fundamental differences, right? So they'll go here. Wow.
That's another one of my family's boat too. President Taylor. And see all these persons lining up here to deliver their boxes to go to the family island.
That's interesting. I had no idea. It happened. That's
way. See, all these are MailBoats loaded to go.
Wow. Now, you mentioned earlier that some of the things you may have been told was that the government's not going to be as helpful. You may not get as much support. Have there been any issues relative to corruption, or I'm thinking about contraband? I'm thinking about things where the government has been kind of handicapped with that.
No, like I say, the Bahamas government does a really good job at the border. It's just that it's a huge undertaking for us to even assume that a country of only a few 100,000 people would be surrounded by water. Like we could just protect all of these mailboats. You see the condition they're in.
Yeah.
That we could literally patrol and protect all of our borders. Like we can't do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that they've been doing their best along with the resources that they have. They've been very helpful to me. We work in tandem with them where, I haven't personally had any incidences with contraband and stuff because we operate a very efficient operation everywhere we go. We're very strict with that. So, but the reality is that they do have challenges with that in our country. But I could say from my experience in the industry that I feel like they've been doing a good job, which may be contrary to popular belief, but the reality is that I'm here working with them every day, so I see it. I know that they're out there doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
They're out here working their hardest.
So I don't even know where to go. Like if I was coming here to
you better ask somebody. Yeah, you don't know.
Like she doesn't know
Yeah,
where to go.
see, that's the same way. She asking where the boat is, where let's go here or there. She gotta ask somebody. This right here is one of the more organized mailboat carriers or cargo companies. It's called Bahamas Ferries.
Okay.
Yeah, so we work very closely with them. We work very closely with them to get our cargo to the family islands. That's one of my trucks coming up here right now.
Box truck?
Not a big. See, that's the October.
Oh yeah. Okay. So how often are your guys dropping off here on a daily basis? They produce every day?
Yeah, that's about every day.
Now most of the companies that are in the space now, are they would you black owned, Bahamian owned?
Yeah. That's most of them, yeah.
Okay.
This part of the industry, foreigners don't really have much of a grip on this, but what they do have a grip on is the international, like the ships bringing in the cargo from outside the country are all foreign owned,
Now with domesticfreight.com, it's a lot of the freight that we saw. Would that be some of the freight you'd be potentially?
All this local freight. So basically, so what we trying to do is to organize this, so one of the biggest parts, you notice how all those people were standing on the line.
Right.
Imagine if they never had to leave their home. You see, that's the difference. Sunlight should be all right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we bought this